this up. So last week you made kind of a random purchase on Comixology because it was a good price. I think the original price was maybe $10 or maybe up to 15, but it was like 447 or
Yeah.
something like that. So you got it. And then you talked with our pal Ross about it in kind of a group chat. We don't have a group chat with him. We both just talked to him on Pullboxpals. But
Yeah, we just
you were
say
you
who
were
it's from.
yeah, but you were talking about it, and it reminded me like, oh yeah, I said I was going to get it, so I just went and purchased it, and then I read through it yesterday, and I guess I'll give it to you. You wanna talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I will. Let's just shout out the creative team here. I pulled it up. It's written and created by Alex Gran and Josh Berman, and the visuals are Charpak Dipta. And it looks, as far as I can see from like everything, is that they just yeah, it literally says publisher is just Alex Grant. So these guys like 100% just put this out on their own, and like I think that is so cool. I'm all
Yeah,
about
well,
like,
they put it out with the like comic book history something. Man, I was looking at it today. I should remember.
you should. I'm gonna pull up. This is the inside that I was just
Yeah,
looking at. There's
the,
no real cover. It
yeah,
just
and I
kind of
think I
opens
think
on
it
that.
says it on that page. It's the comic book historians,
Okay,
and
yeah, I think you're right. If you
and
can
when
read the
I
fine
after I
print there.
read this, that's when I like looked in like who are the comic book historians, and they actually have like a YouTube video that has some of the interview clips that went into making this comic.
Oh, so is this really based off of a real guy?
Yeah, it's really yeah. I mean, it says on the cover, it says based on a true story.
Does it really? Am
Hashman.
I?
Yeah,
Oh my goodness, I didn't even see that. Well, you're
yeah.
better at telling stories than me. You want to set up what the premise of this is?
Yeah. So, kind of what you'll read on the back of it, it says a criminal turned psychologist, Joey Berkowitz, has a complicated past extending through East Coast mobs, the psychedelic 60s, the New York celebrity drug culture, Berkeley peace movements, the Paris riots, Altamont, Woodstock, laundering money in Southeast Asia, and sitting meditation courses in Tibet. Uh, Join Joey as he manages to escape prosecution time and time again by the seat of his pants, ultimately becoming a noteworthy shrink in Seattle, where he manages to find himself as a central figure in the worldwide cannabis legalization scene as its most notorious authorizing doc, dispensary financier, and industry stalwart. Will he make it through, or will the law finally catch up with him? And dude, I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I started reading this.
Me
Like
neither.
zero. And I don't think you did. And I read a few reviews after I read it as well. And almost everybody said the exact same thing. Like I had no idea what I was getting myself into with this comic.
Yeah.
And it is fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. It was one of those like I just couldn't stop reading it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to keep going. Because it, as you kind of talked about there, this covers a whole man's life, and
Yeah.
like everything that he had experienced. And for me, I am so fascinated by people that were born either in the 40s or the 20s or something like that have grown up in the 20th century, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like all this stuff that they had experienced of wars and the hippie movement and organized crime and all that stuff. And yeah, it was just so interesting to have this autobiography, just this man telling his story, and this really awesome art that just accompanied the whole thing.
Yeah. The art is just, I got the first few panels up here and I'll show them here.
Yeah,
But
I was gonna
I
say
mean,
I
you
pulled
start
up some
out.
too.
Sorry, my light's kind of in the way.
That's fine. I'm gonna show
But
it
yeah,
too.
you start out on the beach and it's just him and his dog. And then man, my light's messing it up. But then he kind of
That's
ends
fine.
up hurting his dog. And then he's at the vet getting his dog taken care of. And the opening line to all of it is, your dog will be all right.
Mm.
And like, I just like love that whole sequence of panels on the first page. And again, the colors are just so like, I like there's like an abstractness to like the detail of the art itself, but then like the colors just make it this like really trippy
Hmm.
experience. that kind of just vibes with Joey's entire story.
Yeah.
Like there's a few black and white panels like in the first few pages when he's in the past and recalling his like growing up, which was like, you know, and he references it throughout like the whole comic. It's always going back to, you know, I've always lived with like the anger of the torment of my mother or from my mother, because his mom abused him and his dad was a bit apathetic towards like everything in life. He was like a World War II vet who saw action and like was supposed to jump into Japan on the day that the nukes were dropped. And so like that, you know, and his mom was like the surviving member of her family from being in Holocaust camps.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so this is a real guy. And then you just get into this story of like when he learned how to like communicate through comedy with his first best friend as a child, who did grow up to be a comedian like his friend did. But he like learned how to communicate and like jive with people at a young age. And then by the time he was like 12, 13, he was already like hustling. Like he was found a way to like make money, and like it just became like, it wasn't even the amount of money. It was just for him. His whole story is about like, I was always just driven by this addiction to see if I could succeed.
And just an adrenaline junkie, you know, which I think is like super fascinating and so true. And you don't think about it of those types of characters who were in organized crimes or activists or people that kind of just chase the next big thing, you know? And it's hard to think that this person's a real person because they just seem to be involved. It's like very Forrest Gump. It's like
no, I
Gump.
definitely get that.
It's like if Forrest Gump and Scarface had a baby kind of feeling.
And Tommy Chong.
And Tommy Chong. Yeah. Instead of just smacking his face on a big pile of coke, he's just smacking his face on a big pile of marijuana. It's not doing anything to him. He's confused. He's angry. Yeah. But yeah, man, I just thought this was such a cool thing. I'm so happy that I got this, and I 100% would buy this trade paperback physical if it came out. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to these creators or add them even on Instagram or anything, but I'm totally going to be shooting them a message after this and just, you know, seeing if they even got anything else.
I'm also now just fascinated by the concept of the comic book historians like group. And I try to check out their website and their YouTube a little bit, but I didn't get like too far into that rabbit hole. But if they have more comics like this that are like based on the real story of somebody who like kind of was underground important to like a certain scene of American history, like that's amazing. So yeah, if you haven't heard of this, you heard about it here.
And, there you go.
That's really funny. And what's our new slogan?
You haven't read comics like this in years.
Yeah, no, like that's very true of this one. So
that's
this is like
true.
a 5 out of 5 recommendation for me. Like,
yeah,
it's fantastic. And